Hey folks, it is Monday, May 24, and this is the Daily Word one more time. I am desperate to see God's people free. I'm desperate to see them free and walking in authority and victory as individuals and as a whole people. Sometimes it seems that it's the rare believer who's really living what we've been given. Some of us carry wounds and we carry hurts that cripple us through whole lifetimes. Seasons like the one that we're just now coming out of kind of aggravate the problem. And so the psalmist wrote, Psalm 38, start at verse 3, "There is no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There's no health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities are gone over my head. As a heavy burden they weigh too much for me. My wounds grow foul and fester because of my folly." Well, did you see the connection? The psalmist connected sin and iniquity with his life's wounds. Because of sin, his heart wounds and his heart hurts had infected and they'd grown worse. Not because the wounds are wounds, not because someone or something or even himself had inflicted wounds upon him, but because of his own folly, his own foolishness. And so you have to ask, what did he mean by that? Well, hurt can remain and it can continue to disrupt life because the wound becomes infected. It becomes a structure of thought and feeling inside of you that feeds on itself. It's like a way of thinking and feeling that has a life of its own. And life events then keep bumping up against it and aggravating it like an old bruise that doesn't go away because it keeps getting hit before it can heal. I'm a Christian leader. I'm supposed to be holy, right? But I'm just like anyone else. There have been wounds in my life that have disrupted joy and disrupted relationships and ministry most of my life and have driven me to bouts of depression occasionally. It became critically important to me to do something about that and put a stop to it. So here's where the turning point came. This might upset some of you. I began to get past those wounds when I began to see that even the wounds had become sin. When I turned that corner, victory began to happen. That's when authority began to flow. That's when a new journey began. That's when God brought me to people who could really help draw out the infection and help me get free. It's easy to tell myself, I'm not responsible for this. Somebody hurt me. I have a right to be hurt. I'm powerless over this because I'm a victim of someone else's actions. Well, you might not believe me, but I know that this kind of thing will continue until you begin to regard even the wound as sin and treat it as such. Well, why is it sin? Well, it's sin because the wound keeps producing poison. The poison then affects perceptions, behavior, relationships, attitudes, emotions. It affects it affects family relationships, it affects ministry, and more. It keeps generating thoughts, words, and actions that produce more hurt and more brokenness that affect and often defile the people around you. In the end, the wound itself has become sin. Why is the wound itself sin? Because it doesn't look like the resurrected Jesus, and it produces things that don't reflect who he is. You and I are destined, if we're believers, we're destined, Romans 8:29, to be conformed to the image of Jesus. Anything less than that is just wrong. Jesus himself had to deal with wounds and hurts just like you and me. He had to keep them from becoming poison. His disciples, his friends, all abandoned him at his hour of greatest need. How many of us have abandonment issues? One of those closest to Jesus betrayed him to death. Now here's just one of his wounded heart cries, Matthew 23:37. "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling." Well, Jesus' wounds didn't infect and poison his life and relationships because there was no folly in him to cause his wounds to infect. He didn't feed the hurt. He didn't live in it. It didn't grip him and determine later behavior or attitudes. It didn't cause fears and angers and ungodly behavior in him. And so his wounding didn't become sin. He didn't incorporate the pain of what people did to him into his own nature in any way. It didn't warp his perceptions, and it didn't cause him to withdraw love. And so maybe you realize, I carry a wound. Well, maybe it was a church betrayal. Maybe it was a friend who did something heinous. Maybe it was a family member. Maybe it was a father or a mother or a brother or a sister. And you realize the wound has become infected and it's affecting my life. My wound is therefore sin because it doesn't look like Jesus, and it's affecting life and others in unholy ways. I have to confront it as such, confess it as such. And then you receive the power of the cross and Jesus' resurrection to break it, and you move on. As long as you're waiting for some outside thing to come along and heal the wound, you're still a victim. But when you face it as sin and then you take action, whether it's simply confession or a counselor that you seek out, then you rise to the authority. You begin to rise to the authority God has given you. It almost always involves taking up authority to radically forgive the one or the ones who were the source of the hurt. Understand that forgiveness doesn't take those who hurt you off the hook for the damage they did. It doesn't excuse them. It doesn't minimize their wrongs or the pain they caused. It only says, I am responsible for what I carry inside of me. I can't hold anyone else accountable for that. And so I pray, I now take responsibility for what lives in me, for the infection my wounds have carried. I take responsibility not just for my behavior, but for the infected brokenness of my heart. And I give it to you, Jesus, in repentance and release. I receive your cleansing and your holiness. Take it to the cross. Let it die there. And so finally, I encourage us all to apply this principle to the suffering and the offenses of the last year and a half of the pandemic, the election confusion, the prophecies that didn't pan out, the racial conflicts, and the church hurts and splits and all the rest of it. Don't allow the wounds to fester. Forgive radically and rise above it all. God bless you all. Have a great week.